No role plays, just real. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader.
We've never really, as a workforce, spent a lot of time on making sure we're developing good leaders.
We'll be able to share stories, experience, mistakes, failures, successes.
This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And Lorenzo, on this episode, I want to talk about how the best places to work list came out for 2019. And the number one place to work in the world was Cisco, which is an IT company, if people who are listening aren't aware. It's the first time they've been at the top of the list. And I want to talk a little bit about why they are there, because there's a lot of articles out there right now talking about why they're there, why they got to the top of that list. And I think a lot of it aligns with the premise of what we think leadership is. And I want to see what your thoughts are on about it. So I'm going to read a little bit from this article that we'll post a link to on the podcast description. It talks about the 3 ways basically that Cisco does this, and I want to talk about each one with you. The first one is that they connect everything. The second one is that they innovate everywhere. And the third one is that they benefit everyone. And those are the 3 prongs of what they call their people deal, their deal with their employees. And so you've read the articles, I've read the articles. What are your thoughts about this? I feel like this is kind of validating for a lot of the stuff we talk about on Hacking Your Leadership as far as what's important today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And number one, congratulations to them, right? I think that
Sure.
We see a lot of these, types of kind of awards and rankers and that type of thing for all different types of reasons. But I think that if you look at, how they figure this out as far as the best places to work, what questions they ask, what levels of leadership at employees they go and talk to, and how they kind of aggregate all that information, it's a pretty good vetting process. And I think more importantly, as I've seen organizations that have topped this list in the past, what I really appreciate is kind of the how and the why and that type of thing, that it's not just a cool place to work and because we all love this one leader maybe, and this person's a great visionary, yada, 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 but they actually have intentional strategy baked into who they are as an organization, and it's very easy to share, and it's very simple for people to understand. And what I also like about it is that the company says, look, here's not only what we stand for and believe in, here's what we're going to do for you. And on the other side of that, here's the expectations that we have from you as an employee working for the organization, because it's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. So yeah, that I think is, for me, what I got out of reading it, and also being somewhat aware of what Cisco has done over the last handful of years to get to this point. I think it's great, and I think it is very validating for a lot of leaders and organizations as we dig deeper into these things. That this is the way of the future in regards to building the best possible types of employee experience.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about these 3 prongs of their people deal. The first one is connect everything. And it says Cisco promises to connect its employees with personnel, information, and opportunities, while it asks its employees to connect with each other to deliver positive outcomes for the company. And what I like about this is the thing that I think is kind of at the heart of my leadership platform is about connecting everything. I love this concept because I think the leaders that lead the best are the ones that are able to connect everything they ask their employees to do with whatever the greater mission of the organization is. They're able to define that connection in a way that lets that employee know, yeah, this is working towards it. So this idea that just because you aren't at the C-suite table or sitting in this room whiteboarding with other other hive minders on how to solve the world's problems, that organization needs to be able to make every person in the organization feel like what they do contributes to those conversations in some way, or you're going to lose everybody. And this is showing that Cisco does it well. I think good leaders do that on a micro level as well, whether it be asking an employee to help a customer in a certain way or to have certain behaviors when dealing with their customers or clients that might sound robotic at first, but are meant to help an employee get through an interaction that they might not be comfortable doing. Those types of things, to taking out the trash and making sure the bathrooms are clean. All of these items connect back to a larger mission, and leaders who fail to be able to connect everything back to that larger mission are leaders who fail their people. Leaders who are able to connect everything together are the ones that succeed in getting their people moved up.
I love that. And I think, that idea of our responsibility as an organization, kind of from what they have listed here is like, we're going to connect you to the larger work, right? And that's elements of vision, that's elements of overlap, that's a lot of dialogue of it that takes all of us to get here. And then it says then comma, then our expectation is that you connect with one another. So again, it's like, here's what you can hold us accountable to as an organization, and by organization we mean our larger leadership teams. And then here's exactly what we're asking you to go do, which is connect with one another. So it's kind of like, if we're going to do this and provide you with this type of transparency, if we're going to involve you in collaborative efforts, if we're going to reach out to you and make you a part of this larger process, then our expectation is that you work with one another in a way that allows us to become better every single day. One of the things that was not in this article, but when it first kind of launched, they talked about that's unique to Cisco, is that they don't do yearly reviews in their organization. And what they do instead is do these like weekly updates where they have the employees say, hey, here's how I'm adding value in my current role. Here's some of my thoughts on what I have upcoming that I'm working on. And then they use two terms, I think is love and loathe. Here's what I love that we're doing. Here's what I loathe. And this is like right now, coming up to next week, and these types of things. And so this is a way that they are able to then have leadership look and see, how does the team feel they're adding value? What are they working on? And then what are maybe some of the things that we're getting right from a love standpoint? They love this and they love this thing. What are the loathes? What are the hurdles? What are the situations they're running into? What are the things that we need to solve for from a leadership team? So it's a very different approach to how they're engaging their people, but I believe that's the tactical element of the connect piece of this strategy.
On a lighter note, I want to say that I like their uses of the words love and loathe. I think a lot of companies would kind of water that down. Here's what I like. Here's what I don't like as much. Here's what I wish were different. It's
start, stop, continue.
No, love and loathe. Those are extreme words. To love something means you would essentially do it for a long time, or you would continue to do it very, very happily for a long time. To loathe something means you dread it. And I think a lot of organizations would fall short of using those words. They would say, here's what I prefer to do, here's what I wish were a little bit different. They kind of water it down because they don't want to put their employees in a situation where they're asking the employees to be that hypercritical of the things they're doing or of their organization. So I like that. The thing that I get the most out of this is this idea that I've always believed that relationships need to have reciprocity. There can't be a commitment from a company to an organization about anything without that organization asking the employees to commit to something as well. It doesn't work. No matter how positive the intent is of the organization, if you put out something that just says, here's what we commit to our employees, and you don't ask anything of them in return, that is a relationship that lacks balance. You can't be all things to all people without asking them for something in return, or they will take you for granted. It has to. It works in a relationship. Everybody listening right now has had a significant other who loved them more than they loved that person. It didn't work out. It felt uncomfortable eventually. It was that person would walk on water for you and would do everything for you. They'd move mountains to make you happy, and you just weren't in it. And the more they strive to do it that way, the less you were into it. And that's because they didn't ask anything of you. They were there no matter what. It happens in personal relationships. It happens in employer-employee relationships. Relationships have to have reciprocity. So if you're a leader and all you're doing is finding yourself saying, this is what my commitment to my employees are, and you fall short of saying, this is what I expect out of you, this is what your commitment to us needs to be, then you're only getting half that equation there. So I love that part of it. The second element in their people deal is innovate everywhere. And it says Cisco guarantees employees an open and agile environment that encourages employees to explore ideas. In turn, they ask their employees to relentlessly pursue innovation. This is a sticking point for me a little bit because I think a lot of companies say this. How does it actually work in practice? I know plenty of companies that say, we expect our employees to innovate. And then every time they try to innovate, they go, well, let's hold the phone here. Let's not quite innovate here, So, I mean, it's interesting to see how this works in practice.
No, I would completely agree because I think that which you always have to be really careful of when you use that vernacular around innovation. Is like, yeah, but before you can innovate, you have to be foundationally sound, which is another way of saying like you got to be really good at your day job, right? What we don't need is a whole bunch and tens and thousands of people wanting to do everything except for what we actually pay them to do in our company.
Right.
So like you've got to be really, really good at that. And I think that in the right environments, what happens is that you have people, and I see this with team members and people that I work with constantly, where they become fantastic subject matter experts. They get really good at what they do in this specific role or this job or the strategy or these behaviors. They get really, really good where now they're able to teach it to other people and help bring other people along. And in the behavior of getting really good at something and then being able to teach it to others, we start to learn things. And as we learn things and we start to connect dots and we start to find these commonalities and these themes, now you kind of have this space to innovate where you go, well, wait a minute, you know what? Like, I've got this down pat, but I think that if we do it this way, or we make this adjustment, or if we can try it this way, we may have some more efficiency. We may have some more effectiveness. We may be able to do something a little bit off kilter that I think could drive something, whether it's a result, a behavior, whatever that is, to a different level, a place we've never seen it before. And to me, that's what I believe really gets you into a fantastic space around innovation. I've never yet met somebody whose title is I'm the Chief Innovation Officer, or my title here is I'm the Innovator.
Right.
It's really rare, right? Like no, you have your job, then you work collectively as a team, or you go to solve this problem, but the people in the room looking to solve the problem really have to be great at what they do, and they have to understand whatever that is they're working on. And then as a result of that dialogue and conversation with highly effective people, then I think you have this opportunity to find ideas and ways of getting things done that then lead to actual innovation.
Right. If you look at a baseball game, the winners of most baseball games have the most singles and doubles. They're not the ones that have the most home runs. You know, it's the singles and doubles that win the game. And what that basically means is that I think a lot of people confuse the terms innovation with invention. You know, innovation doesn't mean I'm going to find something that is just completely out in left field. This has nothing to do with my organization, but it's a game changer, and it's going to change the way we do business forever, and it's going to change the trajectory of the entire organization. I mean, first of all, if you work for an organization that is fostering that kind of culture, they're doing it as fluff. They're doing it because they don't know how to harness your innovative spirit without like stifling it, and they don't want you to shut down. But no organization is going to be open-minded to hearing ideas like that just come from left field. Innovation is about taking the things that already exist and making them better, making them less expensive, making them better for your organization, making them better for your clients, better for your employees. It's these little tweaks that over time get you to where you want to go. It's the singles and the doubles, not the home runs. So innovation is that. Innovation is how do I take something that may have worked really, really well 10 years ago, but I found there's some things lacking in it, and I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're not demolishing the house because there's a crack in a door. You find a way to repair that, and you find a way to make it better going forward. And I think that the companies that separate innovation from invention are the ones that do it the best, that expect that mindset of how can I just not settle for something because that's the way it's always been done. If it's a pain point, how can I explore that further and figure out how to not make it a pain point? Now, how can I blow this whole thing up and start over from scratch? Because that's not what innovation is.
Right.
The third one they talk about is benefit everyone. And I like this. It's benefiting everyone. They don't just define it as what the go-to definition would be as far as leaving the world a better place, the environment. Those are all very, very important. But benefiting everyone includes its employees and their professional development. And that's what I love. So I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because I think companies think that their give back needs to be things that have nothing to do with the organization. Your give back can be to your employees, and that's a very important part.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I think that they do at Cisco, if I remember correctly, is like they have a program where it's like you have your birthday off. Like,
sure.
Like it's just naturally scheduled off, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Why not?
It sounds Right. It sounds so silly and small, but like if those things matter to your people, if those are things that are like small little benefits of things that somebody goes, well, that's awfully nice. Like that's cool. Like, you know what? Actually, I want to work on my birthday, but like I appreciate the idea. Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like we tend to think about give back in these larger spaces and how do we give back to, the community, the environment, the earth, and those are all of those things are extremely important. And those are all things that when you work for great organizations and great leaders, you always find a way to make sure that you're doing those types of things. And some organizations double down on that. And some organizations kind of allow you the space and time to do some of that work. But I think to your point, benefiting the people, benefiting the employees, as a result of the culture and the environment that you've created and the people that you have them work with, allows them to sharpen their skills, allows them to take some risk, allows them to learn from one another, allows them to find spaces to become really efficient and innovate. Those types of benefits to somebody makes them better people, and it makes them more effective and better at their job, which then opens up the doors of opportunities, which then can impact their compensation and all that type of thing. So I like that idea where it's called out and it specifically is a reminder of, and here's again how we're going to benefit you as an organization and a larger leadership team. Here's what we need you to do to help us benefit the organization.
I like looking at benefiting everyone. I like putting a space between every and one. Everyone is one word. But we look at everyone, it becomes really easy to look at everyone together as a group. So what can we do that would benefit everyone? Well, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as something you can do as an organization where every person in your organization looks at it and goes, wow, that's an amazing benefit for me. Some people will look at it amazing. Some people will look at it as like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's nice to have. Other people, it could be game changing. So trying to define something that's going to benefit everyone collectively is, I think it's a losing game. Separating every and one. How do I benefit every one of you? That means have a relationship with the person you're talking about benefiting and find out how you can meet them where they are to let their position, the organization, and what they do for the organization work to make them benefited. That person individually needs to be able to get benefit out of it. And you kind of touched on it a minute ago, but I've always said that decent leaders make their people into better employees, but great leaders make their employees into better people. And into better people means not in the context of the organization. Don't make me better in terms of how I can do my job better for you, because I might not be at this job in 5 years or 5 months. Make me a better person so that whatever happens, no matter how long I'm here, whether it's for the rest of my life or just the next few months, that I leave here thinking, wow, I got so much out of what my time there was that was more than just a paycheck. If I leave an organization after 5 months or 5 years or 15 years and all I got was whatever money I got in my paycheck, what a waste. A paycheck can be gotten anywhere. You need to figure out how you as a leader can benefit your employees so that when they leave there, they don't even think about the paycheck. They're thinking about what they're leaving behind and how that plays into, is this a good decision to leave here?
No, I completely agree. And with that, it brings us to this episode's 1 Minute Hack.
The 1 Minute Hack.
All right, for this episode's 1 Minute Hack, I want to talk about how you as a leader can take these elements of Cisco's people deal and connect them at a local level where you are and with your direct reports. And so we talk about the first item, connect everything. I want you to write down what you do and how you connect the little mundane tasks that you're asking your employees to do to the greater mission of the organization. If you have a hard time doing that, you need to work on it. Being able to take the little things they do every day, the parts of their job description that are a little bit harder to connect to what the overarching mission of the organization is, figure out how to connect those things back, because those are the things your employees do every day that might be draining on them. They'll be less draining if they're connected back to the greater mission of the organization. The second thing is separate those terms, innovation from invention. How do you put a spotlight on employees who are solving little problems to make pain points go away, as opposed to the sexy idea of of shining a spotlight on employees that have these game-changing ideas. The more you can shine a spotlight on employees that are coming up with these little ideas that might seem like little tiny things in the moment, but actually can have a bigger impact, the impact is less about what their idea is and more about what you can do to foster the culture of innovation by telling your employees that, hey, these little things are important. So make sure you're shining a spotlight on those employees. And then the third thing is benefiting everyone. Separate every and one. Look at each person that you're working with and write down what you're doing to help each of your direct reports become a better person. Not how the organization has programs in place to help them with life or school reimbursement or whatever it is, but what you as a leader are doing for each of your direct reports to make sure that their time here is benefiting them in the long term. And if you don't know how to do that, sit down with them and look at what they're asking for of the organization, what their long-term goals are, and that will give you a starting point for looking at what the organization offers and how to use those offerings to make that person's life better.
Yeah, I think it's a great 1 minute hack, and clearly Cisco has figured this out to a degree in the big picture. So I think borrowing their framework of how they engage their employees in their organization and then bringing it to your own team, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, that's true. I think if we look at the winners of this list for the last few years, it's completely validating about all the things we're talking about of what are important to employees in this workforce, and they're not the things that we traditionally thought were important. These things matter to employees, and they matter when it comes to whether or not employees stay with an organization.
And with that, it brings us to the end of this episode. This is Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll talk to you all next time.